Okay, so a buddy of mine needs a script that will read through some emails he gets and extract information from that. Specifically, we're looking to extract emails contained within the body of a message or set of messages. So let's run down what we have here. First, we start off in our email and we want to assign a label to all the email addresses that we want. That's a pretty simple thing to do within Gmail, and apply that to everything. Second, you need to create a spreadsheet and grab the ID from it and then drop that ID in here. Then you need to grab the name of your sheet, put that in here, and this will take care of any editing we'll need to do. And then we can walk through these functions here. So these right here are utility functions that we'll address as we're going through, but this is how it starts off. So first, this is the main function we will run. So this says for as many labels as we put in here. So if we have multiple labels that we want to process, we just add in another label. And so that loops through and then runs this script for every label. And so this script, first it goes and it grabs all of the emails that are associated with that label name. Then we get all of the threads within those emails. And then we're going to loop through those threads and grab every single message within those threads and pass them through this function, which will parse those messages for us. And so this is going to be doing the identification of emails and names. So here we're looking for the date that it was sent, the subject of the email, names associated with these emails. So sometimes there will be names associated with them, sometimes there will not be. So let's run through it and see what this is. So we're passing, for each thread, we're passing all of the messages through this loop. And so for each one of those messages, we want to get the ID, although I don't think I'm necessarily doing anything with that. Yeah, I'm not, so I could remove that. I decided I didn't need it, I guess, at some point. But anyway, here we're getting the date of the message being sent. This is a built-in Java or Google Apps script function. We can look at it here. Yeah. It's the documentation for it. And again, same stuff here. So this gets the subject, this gets the sender, and so this will be the sender's listed name, so whatever name they have associated with their email address, as well as the email address. And so then we'll break those two things down. And so we use these two regular expressions to do that. Let's go ahead and log that so we can take a look at that and see how these regular expressions work. Okay. And so this regular expression identifies the name, so it matches the name, and then group one is what we're going to call. Normally I would use a look ahead for this, but that method of regular expressions does not work in Google Apps Script because Google Apps Script is a subset of ES5, and we did not get look-aheads until pretty recently in JavaScript. So it just doesn't work, so no big deal, just is a little bit more cumbersome to navigate. And so I wrapped that in this reg function that which essentially just I can pass in the regular expression and the group assignment that I want to grab, and then I'll just say, if the regular expression isn't null, meaning if there is a match, return that match with this index number, otherwise just return an empty string. And I use that a lot for processing regular expressions outside of ES6 because they're a little bit less precise. All right, so here we have this regular expression, which will find emails. And it's pretty good at finding just about any email address. I can't think of any email address that this wouldn't grab, assuming that you don't have somebody that's doing this crap. Okay. So then we get the body of the email. And the body of the email will not be what you see in the email itself. A lot of times email addresses or emails have HTML within them. So let's take a look and see what this looks like. We won't get it all because the logger will not pull or dump everything, but we can get some of it here. And this is what that output looks like. And then from there, we're using this regular expression on the body of the email to grab certain or a very specific parameter that we're looking for to identify the person's name which is associated with that email address. And so this grabs that chunk of text, and then I process it again further down again because of ES5 restrictions. I can't be as precise, so you kind of have to do it step-by-step process here. So once I get that, I use this regular expression to find the individual's name, or if there isn't a name, I just grab the front of their email address, and I'm doing that so that I can point to a difference between somebody who posted something in this group who we have an email address versus just some other random email address that is in the body of the email, which I also want to grab. So this grabs that. Then so this is the person's name or the front of their email, and then this is the email, and then we return that into this variable. So this whole chunk is a function. So we say this variable posted by is the body, and then we're matching it using the matching regular expression, which creates an array of matches, and then we map through each one of those matches and perform this little subscript here to match the regular, or to match the emails in the sender. From there, once we have that, I want to front load that new array that we have here with the person who sent it, right? I want to grab that information as well. So I just use this unshift function, which allows you to just insert an item into the very front of an array. And so here this is a two-dimensional array, or this is a two-dimensional array, and so I'm adding an array at the front of that array. And we have a two-dimensional array because our output is two-dimensional, right? So this is this, right? And then this is this 2D array. So now that we have that pushed in there, we want to grab any other email address that we see in the body of the email. And so we do that with this regular expression, which is the same one as this up here. And for everything in that, we are going to grab all of those, and then we use this unique function, which is up here, to just loop through that and clean it up. If there's any duplicates, it just removes them and gives us back only one of each of those emails. So now we have this 2D array that has the person who sent it, as well as those individuals who we were looking to match within the body of the email. But these are two separate arrays right now. After that, we want to merge these together, right? So for each one of these matches that I have, I want to check and see if that email address is in if it's in the array already, I don't want to add it because this is grabbing this stuff as well. But if it's already in there, I don't want to add it again. And so I use this check table function up here, and it has two arguments: table, the 2D array, and then row, the one-dimensional array. And it says it uses this sum function, which is a matching function for an array. So there's sum and then every. If any item, you can match items in the array essentially, and sum means if any, return true. Every means if all of them match, then return true. And so the match here is this. So I say for each one of the rows within this table, check that row against the row that I'm inserting. And then specifically within that row, I want to check the fourth item within it, which is the email address. Okay, so back here. So we're checking the table against this 2D array. So this is the first argument. This is the second argument. And then if it's false, meaning if this email address isn't already within this table, go ahead and push it into this 2D array. I'm also omitting some group emails. So if there's anything you also don't want in there, you would just add another and operator and essentially do the same thing here to match on that email address. Okay, so then once that runs, then this 2D array is all set, and we can push that into this function, which does another check against the sheet, and then if everything is clean, or once everything is cleaned, it puts all that information within this sheet. So let's walk through what we're doing here. So we have an empty array here that we're going to use to validate that we don't have any duplications, because this up here does still have one thing that will cause a duplication. It's actually happening up here, but it's not a super common thing to happen, and it was getting really messy up here, so I decided to just pull it down here and run it again when we loop through. There's some other reasons for it too. If you're running this script over and over and over again, you end up getting a lot of information here, and this is just being certain that we're not duplicating information that already existed in the table when we push it back in. So if you've already got your contact, right, from a previous email that came through, we don't need to add it again. We already have it. Okay, so here, let's look through these functions. So this one just grabs the spreadsheet, and it grabs it from the ID, which is this, which is this. So it gets the spreadsheet, and then it gets the name again, which is this, which is this. and then it gets we want to identify the last row and the last column within the spreadsheet currently. And so this is the last row, this is the last column. And what we say is get the current table. So get all the information that's currently in here and assign it to this variable. And then for each one of those, we're going to loop through it and add, what are we doing here? For each one of those, temp table push. Oh. So the reason you need to do this is because this isn't actually a 2D array. It's something a little bit different. There's actually a built-in script or a built-in function in Google Apps Script that does this, but this does it just as well. So that's, I guess, why I did it. I think I forgot about the existing. But anyway. Oops. So now that we have this table created, we need to loop through the new information that we gathered, which is this argument. And so for each one of the items in that two-dimensional array, we're going to check it against the table, again using that same check table function, and ensure that, if any of them are existing already, we're not adding it to the temp table. And then we're deduping this variable is going to take that whole table that we just created and just one more time make sure that we don't have any duplications using this dedupe function, which is similar but a little bit different to the other functions. It creates a temporary table and it loops through each one of them. The first iteration, it makes sure that or it checks to see if the table is empty, because if it is, there's nothing to check against, and so it just goes ahead and adds the first thing, and then from there it only adds it if it's not already in the table, and then it returns that table to us here, and then now we can just add that data into the sheet. And so we call the sheet, we tell it the range that we want, so we want the first row, the first column, and then we want all of the rows for as long as the rows are in the two-dimensional table, and then for as wide as they are in the columns of the row. And then we set values as that table, and then this just makes this look a little bit better. So if you were creating your table for the first time and you didn't have it formatted like this, whatever, it just colors it, and so this sets the background color, this sets the font color, this freezes the first row. All right, so let's run it, see what happens. Hopefully I didn't mess anything up in here. And then boom, there's our data. And it froze that row again. Got the time it was sent, the subject, the person's name, the email address associated with that person. And that's it. And then anytime you want to update it, just run the script again. If there's no new data, nothing really will appear. It's